right. Well, welcome everybody to Build. We hope you had a great experience this far, as we're at the end of day 3. I guess you guys already had a lot of sessions. We have a lot of content, a lot of demos that we want to show today, so please bear with us. I think the speed will be, picking up later in the session as we go through all of that stuff. So maybe let me first introduce myself. My name is Niels Laute. I'm a software engineer in the developer ecosystem team in the Windows organization. And we work a lot with third-party developers and partners to really bring their apps to Windows. I actually have a background in design, so I'm basically pretending to be a software engineer, but don't tell my manager that. Luckily, I'm joined today by Ranjesh and by Pankaj. They're both engineering managers in the WinUI and WPF team, so they can help us out with all the techie stuff. Hopefully you were able to join yesterday's talk by Shigusa and Jeff. That was really the session where we talked about all of the investments we're doing in WPF and WinUI, and talking about all of the advantages each framework has. We are going to build on top of that and basically look at all of the tips and tricks that you can apply to your app to really make it stand out and really create a superior experience. But the question is, what is a superior app experience, right? And that is actually a pretty challenging question because there are so many things you can add to your app. And it's not just one single thing that you can just add and it will make it pop. Luckily, we work with great partners and customers, both internally but also externally. And we basically asked them this question. And we put together a little video where they tell about their experiences with WPF and WinUI and what they did and what they invested in to really make sure that their apps stand out. We see in all the app reviews and ratings and stuff that their apps are really great. So that's some nice stuff there. So let me roll the video.
In designing what we wanted the modernized file explorer to look like, we were able to help define how some of the standard WinUI controls should be applied in cases like File Explorer. So when you take, for example, the new ribbon, which is really XAML WinUI command bar, or the context menu, which uses command bar flyout, these are controls that really simplify the experience and clean them up compared to Windows 10. And they give an opportunity for other app developers to reuse these controls in a really similar way.
The primary obstacle we encountered with WinUI 3 is performance. It's a continuous process, yet with Microsoft's dedication to refining the framework and our own efforts to fine-tune our code, we're optimistic that we'll overcome this hurdle.
We wanted Camo to fit perfectly in Windows 11 with Fluent design. Our approach to solving this was pulling in the open source WPF UI library and adapting it and pushing a number of contributions back. In the last year, it's been really exciting to see Microsoft embracing this library and adopting it for WinUI styling in WPF itself.
I love building native apps because not only does it give me great performance and a native look, it also lets me stand out from the competition. It's kinda like instead of building a one-size-fits-all, you're building a custom-tailored version of your app for the Windows platform. Me personally, when given the chance, I always prefer native apps over the alternative.
Developing native applications for Windows is the best way to bring the ideal user experience and the integration with the OS, and also give us developers direct access to all the Windows APIs available.
Cool. So what we heard is that we heard a couple of topics, right? We heard Aiden talk about the importance of UX and design, and that he's modernizing his WPF app to really, look and feel like a modern Windows 11 app. And we heard Danny talking about performance and the importance of OS integrations. And these are the 3 topics that we'll be showing, or that we will be talking about with the demos that we have. And talking about demos, you are probably familiar with Contoso. They made me put this in here, because in case you weren't. But Contoso, we've been around for a very long time. We really like to be here at Build. We were in the healthcare industry, in banking, in the airline industry. We're doing it all. But today we're very excited to talk about our camera business. So we actually, we make these beautiful hardware devices. And the cool thing is that with great hardware, you need great software as well. So today we'll be looking at these two apps. The first one is Contoso Camera Manager. This is our existing WPF app. Customers love it. It's been around for a very long time. But we do get feedback that it could use some modernization and some new stuff that we didn't build in back when we launched this app. And then the new app is on the verge of release, and that is Contoso Studio. So this is really our new app. We choose WinUI for that, and it does a lot of like consumerish scenarios. So there's like photo editing and all that stuff, and that's why we went with WinUI and Windows App SDK. And talking about Contoso Studio, let's get Ranjesh on stage to basically walk us through.
A couple of weeks in Contoso. I've had quite a bit of ramp up. So I went ahead and actually built the app. It's a navigation style app. You can see there's a few pages here, the devices, library. You can see that the camera is connected and there's a sync and disconnect. There's also the recent pictures, right? How do you like my app?
I don't know. I mean, it works, I guess.
Designers.
Right, exactly.
Right,
but looking at the Figma spec, it looks a bit different, right? I think we need to do some work there.
Yeah. So let's see. I guess the background's a little stark.
Yep.
We're gonna tear this apart, right?
Right. Let's walk you through.
So there's definitely the background's a little stark. There's no differentiation between like the camera area and the pictures.
Right. I think the visual hierarchy overall, it needs some work. And and the title bar.
Can we rename our company to WinUI Desktop?
Yeah, I don't know.
So, okay. I guess it's too late now.
Right.
We also wanted a search.
Yep.
That's not there. And spacing, text style, it's all over.
Right.
So I guess I got to go take a design course right now.
Yeah, you can do that.
Just,
or I can actually show you some helper tools for you. That
cool.
Makes your life easier. I'm first going to start with the Store app. This is like my favorite app because they did an amazing job on that one. So it has all these nice fancy animations and cool controls and blur effects and stuff that they've added. But what is interesting to see is that this is using WinUI 2, but if you look at all the controls on this page, none of it comes out of the box with WinUI, right? So they created all of these custom controls and custom styles on top of the WinUI controls, but it does feel like a beautiful Windows native application. And that's because the store team put in a lot of effort to make sure that they are applying the Fluent design system in a good way. And the Fluent design system contains a lot of design guidelines and resources that ship with WinUI that you can add to your app. And we have a ton of documentation, and we have a Figma toolkit that you can try out. But I understand that you don't want to go through all of the docs and stuff.
I'm not a designer.
Yeah, right. And you don't want to spend hours on design docs. That's not a fun thing. But luckily, in the WinUI 3 gallery, we've been adding a design guidance section. And this basically provides you a couple of helper tools with resources that you can apply to your WinUI app. So for example, this is the icons picker page. You can look at all of the different icons that ship with Windows 11 and then copy the right code snippets in your app. Another thing is pretty important, I guess, for our app as well, is the type ramp. So WinUI actually comes with a bunch of predefined text styles, and that makes it really easy for you. You don't need to reinvent like pixel size and all that. You can just reference these, and that will make sure that your app really has that visual hierarchy and fits in beautiful with the OS itself. Now, the other page that I want to show is the color page. And what's nice here is that all of the colors that we use across WinUI and across Windows itself are really based on a fixed color palette. And you can tap into all of these different brushes and apply that to your custom controls as well. So in the Store app, we saw these white cards, right? And they basically use these different style resources like the card background fill color default brush.
That's a mouthful.
That's very catchy. And they basically reference that in their app, and that really provides you an easy way to create a similar experience. And what's important to know is that all of these colors are tested in both light and dark theme. They will automatically adapt.
Oh, high contrast as well, right?
Exactly, and high contrast as well. So for accessibility use cases, we got all of that covered as well. And that makes it easier if you need to define your own colors. You don't need to think about all of those edge cases anymore. Now, the last thing that I want to show is the spacing page. This is actually something that we added to the version that shipped on Monday. And this gives you some high-level guidance on what kind of spacing or paddings or margin you want to use on.
I'm challenged when it comes to spacing, as you saw in the app.
Yeah.
And this is open source?
Right. So this is open source. We actually had a ton of community contributions helping us out on this design section. So that's been pretty great. Maybe we can move some of this stuff in your app and see how we can
I'm really good at copy pasting. I can do that.
Yeah, that's good.
Let me do that. All right, so let's go into Visual Studio here, and you can see the window. I'm going to bring in the first thing, which is mica. So mica is one of our materials, so we can use it as a backdrop for the window, and it layers really well. It gives a nice foundation for the app, and then you can add layers on top. What's the other material? Acrylic, right?
Right.
For transient surfaces, you want to use acrylic, but this is a great starting point. And we also saw that card. How do we do that? So let's go to the device page. And for our cards, you showed that those are just resources, right? Like, so what I'm doing here is just background and border, and like hooking it up to theme resources. And these theme resources are coming from WinUI Gallery. You can just copy paste those. Right. And if you can also use IntelliSense, right? Like, so those work as well. So there's the card resources. What else did we talk about?
I think the spacing and the typographies.
Yeah, so I went ahead and did that. So let me compile and run. Let's see how that makes a difference. But you can see that I'm using the caption text style and these other resources here, which are coming from that page, right, as well as the spacing. I've updated that. Whoop. Okay, let me see what I did there.
This is
real live code. I know. So,
can we just run it?
Oh, I think
maybe. It was already running or what?
Yeah, it wasn't running. So there you go. I just needed to run it again. Hey, it's live code. It's an experimental bit.
Exactly.
So,
there we go.
Let's bring that up. It's starting to look a little better.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference here, right?
Right. I mean, we now have this card on top of the mica, right? So it gives a bit of like hierarchy here. And with spacing and stuff like that, it gives a bit more like visual hierarchy, so you better understand what you need to look at. And that white spacing really helps you to also cluster UI components that belong together, like the sync and the disconnect button.
Yeah, I've got different text sizes here, right? Like that's actually making it a lot more readable. And I don't know if you noticed the mica. Like that layering is so awesome.
Yeah,
I'm gonna just stare at it for a little bit. But there's definitely a little bit more readable. I guess we still have one issue here, right?
Yeah, the title bar.
The title bar and the icon.
Right.
This is a lot of work.
Yeah, we know that creating a modern title bar in WinUI can be challenging, as in you need to write a lot of like boilerplate code to basically punch out the right interactive regions. But luckily, we've been working together with the community in the Windows Community Toolkit on creating control that you can just drop into your XAML, and it will do all of that heavy lifting for you. So this control provides you a couple of properties you can set. You can set things like the icon and the subtitle and title, but you can also add any interactive content in the middle region and to the far right and to the far left. And as you can see is that it will automatically do some of that hole punching for you. So it will know what is interactive, and then you won't be able to drag on that region, but it will get the right user input. And that's what you want, right, for accessibility point of view, because in the end, you want to drag your windows.
Turns out punching those holes for input, it's very painful.
Right. You have to do a lot of like calculations and stuff, but we're making that super easy now. And as you can see in terms of flexibility, these are just some examples of existing apps that ship with Windows. It's really flexible. So here at the bottom, you see some of the the command bar that they've added in the Photos app. If you go full screen, you can do all of that just in XAML, and that's really easy to do. But we can add this to our app, see what that looks like.
So I brought in some code here, so let me show what I did.
There we go.
All right, so the first thing, I brought in a title bar control. This is more comfortable for me. I was like writing some XAML to get the title bar. That's perfect. There's things that you would expect, a title, subtitle. You definitely want the right name for the app. Right. And you can put an icon. And I think we, in the comps, like designer comps, you had the search, and like this allows punching the hole and kind of getting input going, which is awesome. And the footer, like log in, log off, you want to have that information. Right. And the only other thing that you need to do is like extend into the title bar, extend the content into the title bar, and set the title bar. So let's run that. Hey, look at that. Our app's starting to look a little bit more professional.
Nice. Yeah, this looks good.
There's more, right? Look at that. Like if I activate, deactivate the window, it's reacting to that. There's these small things that you end up writing a lot of code, right? Like it starts with just like, hey, I just need to put a text. I need to put a search, and I now have to punch a hole. Now I need to figure out how to figure out the drag regions, and it adds up over time. And this is awesome because you just dropped in a bunch of XAML, and all of that is working. And guess what? The store looks very similar here. Look at that. Our store and our app starting to look like a native app.
Right. So what else could we do?
I guess the other thing that we could talk about is these images. They're very square.
Yeah. I think we want to have like the aspect ratio for every picture, right? To just use the original aspect ratio. I think that would be
nice.
Yeah. Let's do that.
All right, let's go see how we can do that. So let me go into the devices page, and you can see that I'm using an items view. So in the previous talk, I think you guys heard a little bit about items view. It's one of the controls that we're building from the ground up, and it's built with a bunch of smaller components, right? Like that are customizable, and it's similar to list view and grid view. You have the same properties, and then there's an item template, item source that you're probably aware of. But this one is new. There's an attached layout here. Layout is not part of the items view. And if it's attached, you can change it as well, right? Like, so I have a grid layout here. I can do a line flow layout. These are layouts defined in my resources. But there's also a radial layout. I don't think we're shipping a radial layout in WinUI, but
the other two we do, right? The others come out of box.
Right, the others come out of WinUI, but the radial layout is not, and I think that's a custom layout. So if we can switch layouts, maybe we'll go one further and try to switch it at runtime, right? And what's the point of having a property that can that you can change? So here, what I have is an items view with a layout bound to a selector. And there's a selector bar here. Selector bar is that other control. And like I said, items view is built from the ground up. Selector bar is built using items view. And it selects one out of many. And you can see that there's 3 items here: line flow layout, grid layout, and a river layout. Let me see if I can run that. And what this allows is to switch between those layouts. And we'll see what that can do. All right. Starting to look a little better. So the first thing to notice here is the selector bar, right? Like, so you can see that there's a different items here that you can select, and the other thing you notice is the images are getting your native aspect ratio.
Right.
Which is pretty cool. And you can switch between these, right? So there's the uniform grid. You really wanted to see the radial layout, right? Like, what is the radial layout doing? If you can write custom layouts, I've always wanted to write a radial layout. I don't know why.
This is a great use case.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, you can customize other things. Like, what if I want to change the collection animations, right? Like, these are all composition-powered animations, which are really performant. So this is going down to the comp layer, and you can do all that. And this is custom code written in the app, and it's not a lot of code, right?
Nice.
I guess, what do we do next?
I don't know. Want to look at items view or?
Yeah, so maybe we geek out a little bit about what
Sure, I mean,
items
you
it
do
is.
you, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's-
all right.
There we go.
In case you didn't know, I like collection controls. So we briefly talked about items view. So items view is a big molecule, but it's built out of a bunch of other things. So there's items repeater, which is a data-driven panel, if you may. Takes an item source. There's an attached layout that we just saw. There's two different types of layouts. There's non-virtualizing layouts and virtualizing layouts, and we'll get to virtualizing layouts in a little bit because that's when you really get the perf benefits. We ship a few virtualizing layouts out of the box, and you can also do custom collection change animations, and we ship one out of the box. There's also item template that you're probably used to, but this is a little bit more complicated, or actually more powerful, because recycling is happening through item template. It's actually an interface, iElement factory, and data template selector essentially implement this, and that's how they work. And what that means is, if I wanted to pre-create all my elements, or if I wanted to get in control of the recycling when I'm doing virtualizing, you can do all that.
Right, so you can basically tap into that and just write your own logic there.
Yeah, so for example, if I had multiple pages and they had the same template, items with the same template, I can share all of those elements that I created when I go across pages, so I don't drop everything and create everything when I go to the next page, right? Things like that. There's also a scroll view, which is a interaction tracker-based scroll view. Scrolling surface, which is a lot more performant and helps with smooth scrolling.
Right.
There's a item container, which helps us provide the visuals for selection, hover, pressed, and all that. These you don't want to write these. That is just a lot of work.
Right.
And on top of that, you get a bunch of services like interactions, keyboarding, accessibility, things that you expect.
Right. And you get all of that, so when you write custom layouts, you get all of that for free, right? You don't have to worry about...
when you write a custom layout, you can just drop in the new layout,
right,
and everything else still works, right? That's the power of this.
That's cool.
So we talked briefly about virtualizing and non-virtualizing layouts. Here's a quick picture of that. When you're doing a non-virtualized layout, you're measuring and arranging everything in your panel, even though you're viewing only a certain part of the view. And in a virtualizing layout, you can, if you know what area you're seeing, you can just measure and arrange that. It was really hard to write virtualizing layouts before, right? If you went and tried that, you would realize that. The one thing that you see here is there's the viewport and the realization direct. And the difference here is scrolling is happening independently, and layout is running independently. So you want to realize a little bit more so that you don't start seeing black. Or white, depending on what your background is.
Right.
So we realize a little bit more. So yeah, when we scroll, that's what we're seeing. In non-virtualized layout, and in the virtualizing layout, you only realize the things that you look at.
Some beautiful PowerPoint animations, right?
Yeah. Designers, right?
Exactly.
All right, maybe we can take a look at what it means to write a virtualizing layout, right? Because this is not something you could do before.
Right.
Or you could do it before, but it's just a lot of work. So here's a uniform virtualizing stack layout, and you can see there's a type called virtualizing layout, and there's a couple of methods. Measure and arrange, that looks very familiar if you're writing a panel, and what you're getting here is a context on top of the available size. And the context has the realization rect, which we just saw, and an item count. And what I'm doing here is, based on the rectangle that I'm getting and the item count, what's the first and last element index of elements that are in that window, and then I'm just going to measure those. And the same thing for the arrange. And when you want an element for that index, you ask the context, hey, give me the container for that. And if you ask for it, it's kept alive. If you don't ask for it, it gets recycled. So it's as simple as that, right? From a layout author perspective, it's really simple to write something like this, and that's it.
Nice.
So I guess why virtualizing, right? I love pictures,
yeah,
and I take pictures of everything, right? Wherever I go, I'm just snapping pictures. So let me go back here. Here's the library, and there's a bunch of pictures here, and I kept clicking. There's a million pictures here.
Oh, you took a million pictures as a demo?
Well, actually not, but
yeah.
So when I have a million pictures, you saw how quickly it loaded and like how smooth the scrolling is, right? Because we're only realizing things that are within the window. Right. And it's just smooth as butter.
Nice.
And if you don't trust me, I'm going to try dragging. Should I drag this?
I don't know. Sure.
So let me go all the way down to the end. That's the millionth picture.
Right.
And you get like really smooth scrolling performance with that.
Nice. So what else can we do in terms of performance?
Well, the other thing that we noticed is that Windows Performance Toolkit is an awesome, let's switch the slides.
Yeah.
So awesome tool to go figure out like, hey, where are the perf problems in my app? And is it in the platform or is it in the app? And it turns out it's a beast.
Right.
Like there's a lot of details there. If you don't know what you're doing, like it's easy to get lost there. One of the things that we did recently is publish a plugin for Windows Performance Analyzer where you can get a little bit more details of where in the XAML stack the time is being spent. So you at least get the markers, and it's easier to figure out where to go look. And there's good documentation. I'm going to defer to our last community call where one of our devs did a deep dive into this. So definitely recommend going and taking a look at that. One thing that we did is, hey, let's go see. So this is what it looks like once you get a trace and start looking at drilling into the details, right? You can see the XAML frame analysis plugin kind of showing you, hey, when did we get focus? When did layout happen? When did navigation happen? When did navigation complete? What's the region of interest? That's the entire time between XAML coming into the picture and the first frame showing, right? There's a lot of details here, but we went and profiled this app and took a look at this. You can see the red box is when the app got clicked on the desktop and when the first frame got shown on screen, right? And the blue vertical lines that you see, the light blue vertical lines you see, is all the places where JIT happened, right? We're a C# app. Anytime you load like an IL, it has to go and JIT compile everything. And that means it's taking time. And these are JIT started events, right? Like that's the impact of the jitter when you launch the app, as well as like when the app is running. So we went and did AOT compilation, right? Like this is something that we're trying where if we do ahead of AOT compilation, the jitter, like we pre-compile all the IL into native code, and that gets rid of all the IL the jitting that we need to do at startup as well as at runtime.
Right.
And also we can trim. As part of the trimming, we can remove any part of the .NET framework that's not being used. So the size of the app goes down as well, right? So we did that for this app, and we saw about 50% reduction in startup time. So it drastically dropped. Like 50% is a huge deal, right? And the package size, this is awesome. Like it went down by 1/8, right? Like the size is actually 1/8 of the package. And what does that mean?
Right. We can launch faster, I guess?
Well, we can download faster, right? Like,
yeah.
So I know, like maybe it's just me. I'm on a poor internet connection,
right.
and I want to download my app. It's going to take forever. It's going to take 8 times as fast, right?
Nice.
And that's when you're using the WinApp SDK framework package. So the WinApp SDK itself, the WinUI itself is all native. So none of that gets impacted by the native AOT, but the app code and .NET gets trimmed away. But if you're using self-contained, where you're packaging all of WinApp SDK as well as part of your app, then we still see about like 2x improvement.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think our app is now more beautiful than ever,
yeah,
and even faster than ever. So thank you so much.
Cool.
This is awesome.
All right.
I think we're ready to ship, right?
Yeah. I'm done with my first project. I'm going to go start the next one.
Right. Cool. So what we just saw is we've been using the Fluent design system and the WinUI gallery to improve the look and feel of our app. We're using the modern title bar that's coming in 1.6 experimental to create that modern title bar experience as well. And with 1.6, also AOT is coming, so that's pretty exciting. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about WPF. So as I mentioned before, this is our existing WPF app. It looks a bit dated, and we got some feedback that users would love to have some more modern features like sharing and notifications and stuff. So let me get Pankaj here on stage and help us out and see what we can do there. I think it was locked, right?
it's locked. So Niels, thank you so much for having me here. I'm actually confused. Life is good as Contoso or awesome at Contoso. So it's good. It's good. And you actually promised that we'll have a lot of demos. So I'm going to just dive right into this and see what we can do and elevate this app's experience.
Right.
Okay. So before I go there, this app is all about for people who are camera enthusiasts. So on the left-hand pane, you see device settings. You can actually edit a lot of settings here. And on the right-hand side, you see a lot of pictures that have been taken. And for those advanced users, there's a configuration screen. So you can actually import configurations from other cameras if you have. So we have to have a journey of modernization here. Mm-hmm. So modernization actually means multiple things. One of those things is look and feel of this app.
Right.
So let me go ahead and update the look and feel of this app. So for that, let me go to app.xaml here. Okay, cool. Now there's no fun in seeing me type, so I'm just gonna grab this here, and I'm gonna import the Fluent, the Fluent theme that WPF now ships with, and let me just go ahead and build this. Now I do realize like this is not an ideal way, and ideally. Just like Aero 2 theme, like it should have worked out of the box, and that's something that's planned for future. In upcoming releases, we'll have that fixed. But let's see, just including this line, how the look and feel of your application changes.
There we go.
All right, we've got this. So the sliders, the checkboxes, you got expanders. So all the default controls, like they have been styled now.
Right, and it's not only like the visual look and feel, but like we've been adding animation.
Animation support as well.
Right?
Yep, you got that.
Nice.
So, well, this is there. Looks a little boring. See, I'm a big person. I'd like to actually customize my apps a lot. So I'm gonna go here. Personalization. I actually like the accent colors. Where? Colors. That's right. I actually like red accent colors, so for all my windows. Nice. And now your WPF app actually can react to system accent change colors.
What about dark mode?
Oh yeah, I am a big fan of dark mode, and why stop there, right? You've got dark mode here, and let's see. Oh.
Well, kinda.
Yeah.
I mean.
Actually, you know what? You'll actually run into this problem because almost all applications have defined some kind of custom styles in their application. So how about we go and fix this?
Yeah. Let's do
all right. So let me fix the background first. Gotta go to app.xaml. Yep. And there you have it. There's a background that's already applied here. Let's see how it works.
Nice.
Oh, by the way, Niels, if you didn't notice, right, I didn't have to recompile my app. I just changed it, and it's actually reflecting here. That's actually hot reload live in action.
Nice.
So it saves you time. Like you should use it. Let's go to app.xaml. Now, while the background is fixed, I see the cards are not updated. So I'm going to update the cards.
Right, because we have these hard-coded colors here, right?
That's right. That's right. So in here, if you go, there's this card background style right around here. Yep, so those are background. But now I have to select a background that should work both in light and dark modes.
Right.
So for that, let me actually launch WinUI Gallery.
Okay, not the WPF gallery?
Oh, no. Actually, you know what? We wanted the developers of both the frameworks to actually reuse the color resources. So you'll find most of the colors that you can use in WinUI, they actually can be used in WPF as well now. So nice. Let me go here and pick a color for cards. I think the background color, this one looks nice to me, so I'm gonna go here. Now, for a WinUI app, you would have used the theme resource. For WPF, you gotta use dynamic resource here. Yep, that ought to fix the background. Yep, that fixes the background.
Nice.
Yeah, the border and the corner radiuses, they're still out of place. So let me just fix it right now. So dynamic resource. I just love this hot reload. Like I don't have to wait for the app to compile again and come back. Card stroke default color brush. Yep.
So, and this will work for colors, but also the things that we saw on the type ramp. So all of those text styles, those you can use both in WinUI and WPF as well. So that's really nice.
Yep, and gonna close this, and let's see how my app looks like. So the cards are fixed now, but wait a minute, it's not only fixed for dark mode, it's actually fixed for light mode as well. So
there we go.
Well, that covers the UI front of it. Let's move to use of modern APIs, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot this import button. It's still looking odd.
Oh yeah, that looks
sorry. Let me.
Still.
Yep. Control F, import. Oh, that's right. It's using purple style. I want to actually have it look like an accent button. So default accent button style. So this will actually adapt to whatever accent colors I have. So there you have it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's again that same style that you might be used with in WinUI. You can just use that in WPF.
Right. Yeah. So now let me see the code behind for import, right? It's this import is actually importing all the files in a folder. So if you go behind the code here, yep. So it uses system.windows.forms.folder browser dialog, and because of this component, you actually have to bring in a lot of WinForms dependencies here. So WPF on .NET 8 actually already ships with its own folder browser dialog, which was a community ask for like quite some time now. So you can actually go ahead, comment this one out, and we're gonna replace it with the folder browser dialog that we have. So open folder dialog. It should be as straightforward as this. Yep, that fixes it. There's an error here. I'm gonna folder name. Yep. And so now you don't have to bring in the WinForms dependency.
Nice.
Yeah, it should help you trim some of your app dependencies. What's next? For applications, for editor-like applications, right, where you have a WPF application where you write some code, right? Like for example here, there was a long-standing ask that hyphen linkages don't work in WPF. Well, they actually do now. So from .NET 9 onwards, you should be able to. If your font supports ligatures, you'll have it like it'll work. So.
Nice.
So that so this is the use of modern APIs that we had. What's next? What next?
Yeah, I think this app is already packaged, and I think we added the Windows App SDK already as well. So.
That's right. Yeah. So this already this app is already packaged. In fact, I'm already running this package here. So if you can see here, this is already a package.
Right.
And with packaging, you get the support for like your app actually shows up in Start menu. Where is it? All apps. Contoso. Yep, there's your camera manager. So it already gets packaged and it shows up in your Start menu. What else you can do with it? I would like to actually have my app talk to my Windows notification center. Basically, let everyone know when there's a new version of my app available. So let's go about adding that. For that, we need actually WinApp SDK to be actually already installed in this. So since that part was already covered in an earlier talk, I'm going to build up on top of that. So in here, if there's a firmware update available, let's assume there's always a firmware available. I'm going to pause this one and bring in the notification. Yep, KD, and meanwhile it's running. So in here, it's as straightforward as adding a notification builder, adding a text, what exactly we want to do with it, and then showing the notification. Oh, sorry, I think my Windows is not allowing me to disturb, so I want to turn that off.
You get disturbed.
Yeah, I want to get disturbed. And yep, there's my Contoso telling me there's a new firmware available.
Nice. And that's the great thing with the Windows App SDK is that maybe if you joined Nicola's session earlier this week about all of the new AI APIs that we're shipping, the Windows App SDK is really that shipping vehicle that you can add either in WinUI or in your WPF app and just reuse that same code. So that's really nice.
Yep. Oh, you also mentioned about ShareSheet.
Right.
Yeah, I'll tell you what something about ShareSheet. It actually allows your application to socialize with other applications. Let me take an example. I've got a bunch of pictures here. The one with Hanselman, I think this should be fine.
Oh, that's
not bragging here. I did get a picture with them. So, but if you were to go ahead and share this picture, right? I want my app to also show up here,
Right.
and Contoso Camera app actually does show up here. So this is how you actually use ShareSheet.
Nice. Yeah, and this is actually when we talk to customers, this is a great way to integrate your app, as we actually see that this can drive a lot of traffic to your app as well, because users discover your app in one of these places, right? And ShareSheet is a great way to do that.
Yep. And to actually do this, let me actually go through the steps to actually have a share sheet working in your application. So you have to actually tell your package that you would like to actually tap into the share sheet functionality. So in declarations, you say that your app is going to be be a participant for share target.
Right.
And in my main window, with the loading here, when my app is loaded, I actually inspect the activation arguments. So basically, if my app is a share target, I actually inspect the launch arguments, and if it's something that I actually want, then I go ahead and add the picture. So it's that straightforward.
Right, and you can also share from either File Explorer to your app or from your app to another app.
Actually, if you want to share the other way around, you need to actually have tap into share destination.
Right.
So this one is a share target, so it comes one way here.
Right. Well, great. I think we really modernized our app, and it's looking better than ever. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So what we just saw is that with only that one line of XAML, we were able to add Fluent theming to our existing WPF app. It will automatically react to all of the accent color changes and dark and light theme changes and high contrast changes. So it's a great way to really upgrade your look and feel. With .NET 9 Preview 4, it's actually out this week, I believe. So you can try that out yourself as well. And that also introduces some of the new APIs. That we talked about. And I guess, Windows App SDK, please consider that to see if you can add some of those modern APIs. More stuff to come there. And it's a great way to have your WPF app modern as well. So to wrap up, our call to action, I guess, is definitely check out the WinUI gallery and the new WPF gallery if you want to look more at Fluent Design and see how Fluent Design is being applied to all of the default WPF controls. Windows App SDK 1.6 Experimental is coming later this month. That will include support for AOT and the new title bar control. And lastly, .NET 9 Preview 4, yeah, that's available now. So you should go try that out, and definitely let us know what you think. And maybe the last slide, we're at the end of build, but there were a couple of great sessions this week. Some of these were, I think most of these actually were recorded, so definitely go check those out as well. And thanks for joining.